I would like to thank Brinson and Colbin, DS, Cold Hitter, Galaxy Nano, Guardsman Miku, Quinn Gillis, Volley, Dylan Ripley, W. You Kill Me, Juan Pablo, Liz Q, Paznik, Josh Russell, Panzer LH, Luna Wit KIA 07, Profile, Chris Hess, The Vitol 1999, Celtic Draco, David Sibilian, M50 Ontos, Direx, Thomas Novik, Mick, Solid 30, Pro 711, Herenzes, Rodriguez, Alfonso, Balls, Harangi, Cassicaster, Stu Daddy, Connor, Vernon, Duprez, Colbin Winningham, Zeph Art, Angel of Hell C, Timothy, and the 71 unknown soldiers who have subscribed to the channel. Thank you all very much, and welcome to the regiment. If you would like to hear your name be read out at the start of the video, please hit the subscribe button, or if you're a private subscriber, please leave a comment down below saying that you're a private subscriber, and I'll add you to the list. Thank you all once again very much, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Oh, welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. It is time once again for one of my famous rambling videos where I just go off kilter and talk about something I probably shouldn't have. However, this video I'm doing because another YouTuber called Legendoftotalwar asked me, and by me I mean the community, to make a response to his video to start a discussion. And since I actually do hold Legend in high esteem, I do respect him. He is a really amazing YouTuber. He is well versed in any of the Total War games. Like, any problem you have, he has the answer to. I've seen him do the most insane things in the series when it comes to disaster battles, disaster campaigns that I didn't even think was possible. And every time that I am personally stuck on a campaign, I will just literally search up one of his campaign streams and just watch what he did and kind of just mimic that, because he normally has the right answer on how to actually play almost any faction from the game, from Rome 1 to probably not Pharaoh, because he doesn't play Pharaoh, but, you know, any of the really mainline popular games. Now, he made a video in response to another creator called Pixelated Apollo, and his title was, "Has Total War Fallen?" Or "Total War is Fallen," one of the other ones. It's the hyperbolic YouTube naming scheme when it comes to titles. And the problem is I believe that Legend kind of misrepresented Pixelated Apollo's argument, and he doesn't understand why Pixelated Apollo made the video in the first place. Now, Legend wants to have a nice conversation about basically the future of the Total War series, of historical titles, how the Total War Warhammer series has kind of bled into the historical titles, and a lot of mechanics from that series has, a lot of people said that it either has corrupted or, you know, has diminished the historical titles. Which we can have a conversation about that. But first, I want to tackle PA's arguments first. Now, PA's, or Pixelated Apollo's argument, basically sums up like this. If you're an old school fan of the series, that's from Rome to Shogun 2, so that's 13 years plus. You are a old school fan, you are a true fan of the series. Unlike the new fans of basically Rome 2 onwards, which is fans for 11 years and to now, those are fake fans. These are fans who are consumers, which is the word that he used, mindlessly consuming slop, as he puts it. And they are just silly billies who just want to see big single entity units just smash into each other, you know, unthinking. It's totally simplified. They don't want to engage the brain, unlike the highbrow players of you know, Shogun 2 and Rome and Shogun 1 and Medieval 2. That's very highbrow entertainment. Now, the problem is that his original argument actually said Shogun 2 to Rome is the true fans. However, he also put that Warhammer 1 onwards are the new fans. And it's because of his main crux of his argument is that Warhammer 1 has simplified the historical titles. However, I've added in Rome and Attila into the new fan base. Pixelate Apollo didn't. Because if he actually added Rome 2, Shogun 2 actually, and even Attila, that's actually when the formula started to be simplified. Or rather, I'm not going to say simplified, but more streamlined compared to the older style of games. Of course, if he mentions those three titles as the new school fan, the crux of his argument that Warhammer is corrupting the historical titles falls flat in his face because we already see these three historical titles streamlining the system. And the reason why he makes really just these false arguments, because it's one thing to attack the games and criticize the games, which he is free to do that, but to attack the audience that may have been actually stick around for 11 years as as mindless consumers is just asinine. Another argument that he makes is that that CA somehow replaced the old school fans with these new consuming fans. That's not actually what happened. What CA did was make video games people liked. Not all people like these video games, but they grew the fan base, and the fans of the let's say the original titles from Rome to Shogun 2 or Medieval 2. Those are those people, like those fans are still there. It's just there's a whole raft of other fans now inside this circle. They're not replaced. There's just more fans, and ergo their voices might be smaller than, of course, to the larger groups of fans who got into, say, into the series via Rome 2 or Warhammer, because that a lot of fans came in, or even like something like Three Kingdoms. I know that apparently that was a big hit in China, and they really actually loved that. So like, what you going up to a Chinese fan who fell in love with the series from Three Kingdoms and say, oh, you're just a fake fan because you didn't play during Shogun 1? Like that's just fucking stupid. To kind of wrap things up about the Pixelate Apollo's arguments, he unfairly shits on the fans in the games, and he does this not to start a conversation, but he does this to promote another YouTuber's game. Nick Griffin's, I think it's Master and Commander. It's basically like a Total War style RTS, except instead of you taking control of a nation, you're taking control of the army, and it's more in depth of the army side than from the national side. You play a general, and it's much more about like, here's your war camp, here's how you have to pay your men, a little bit more than the nitty gritty. And I think it's really bad because you don't have to promote a game by shitting on an old fan base and trying to be a Coke versus Pepsi. You don't need to do that. And by even doing this, he is unintentionally smearing Nick Griffin's game, because now it's an us versus them mentality that he wants to create. And I think this is actually really unfair to Nick Griffin and his game, and the team behind his game as well. I think that, if you want to promote his game, it should be like, hey, here are the great things about this game, and this is why you should buy it, without attacking another series and another larger fan base. So now to Legend's argument. Legend stated that he tried to defend Pixelate Apollo a little bit by saying that you can have a video that's 95% correct, and then people will hone in on the 5% that's incorrect and completely shut on the video. Legend isn't lying about that. That does happen. The problem with the video in question in this case is actually 95% of it's shit, and you might have 5% actually a good point. So it's actually very easy to dismiss his video when he's just mindlessly attacking a massive fan base in a promotion for another game. So it's just don't attack the fans. It is always a stupid thing to attack the fans. And Legend does a bit of an appeal to authority by saying, well, don't dismiss Pixelate Apollo because he almost has 1 million subs, so he must know something. And that's not really, you can't really say that, because if Logan Paul or Mr. Beast made a not Legend Total War video, but made a Total War video that was just absolutely just dog shit and incorrect, you could rightly dismiss him and be like, okay, yeah, no, he's just an idiot. Doesn't matter how much fans is behind him. It's the strength of the argument that matters. So after just leaving Pixelated Apollo's and the defense of Pixelated Apollo's video behind, although and don't get me wrong, Legend of Total War is being very polite and very charitable. I don't want to come off as like shitting on Legend for trying to get a nugget of goodwill from or otherwise really shitty video from Pixelated Apollo. Legend is again giving him like the most best faith argument he could possibly glean from the video, and I don't want to seem like I'm just shitting on Legend mindlessly, because Legend isn't wrong when he talks about Pharaoh. So for people who don't know, CA wasted $100 million trying to make a video game called Hyenas, which was a generic as hell hero shooter. I think Sega was the one, because Sega owned CA. I think Sega was the one that said, hey, you're going to make this game, we're going to make a lot of money, and CA was like, well, this is going to suck dick. I heard that like a lot of the middle management was like, this game is awful, we are so fucked. Which is why Hyenas never really saw the light of day outside of a really, really bad beta that ended after like 3 days or something like that. So as a panic button, they had the Pharaoh game, which was made by CA Sofia, which was another. It is a CA studio, but it's not the main studio. It's like the B studio, but they do really good work. I actually really like the work that they did on Troy, and I believe they did DLC on Rome 2 as well. And they were making Pharaoh. And you can kind of see what they were going for with Pharaoh, but I think because Hyena was scrapped, they elevated Pharaoh, which is supposed to be a B game, to the AAA title, when it really wasn't supposed to be at that level, and it was unfairly crushed by it. It was just like, people were like, no, this isn't a mainline historical title, we don't like it. Which, that is fair. One also has to keep in mind is that you can't really view Pharaoh or Pharaoh dynasties in a vacuum, because as the same time that Pharaoh came out, Total Warhammer 3 was in a bit of a crisis as well. They launched the Shadows of Change DLC, which was a very overpriced DLC. It was a bad DLC. Almost everyone hated it. And it really was like a slap in the face to the fan base. And there was backlash. And CA seemed to be like, okay, yeah, no, we cannot do this again. This was a horrible decision, and we're sorry. The CA, of course, tried to do a little bit pushback with one of the management, I believe it was, and it blew up in his face as well, if I remember correctly. So that's the kind of thing. When Legend compares the people who play Pharaoh to people who play like the older school titles like Medieval 2 and Shogun 2 and stuff like that, or Rome 2, it's a bit apples and oranges, because Pharaoh the well was already poisoned, and I feel like Pharaoh, because of all the bad will that happened around the DLC, the price increase, and Hyenas, like, it was basically fated to die, and die not a good death. Pharaoh dynasties, honestly seems to be like a return to the historical title, and not a lot of people are buying that as well. Now, the question is, where does Total War go from here? There are rumors that they're making Total War Star Wars, which I don't think is true, but they might be making a Total War 40k game, which could be interesting. They could be making a Total War World War I. I heard rumors of that as well, which would be like a historical title. And Legend does bring up a good point when he talks about other historical games outside of CA, like Paradox's Hearts of Iron. And he says that, like, there is a community of historical, fans who want these types of games. And as someone who plays, I guess you could call it, a historical RTS, Gates of Hell Ostfront, which is probably one of the best World War II RTSs you can get on the market right now. Um, yeah, it is kind of niche, but there is a really dedicated fan base for these historical titles that CA should be tapping into. So I do get his argument about that, and it's kind of funny because you could have a historical title like say like Total War World War One that is more like how people envision what a historical title should be, and then you can also have, and I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one, but Medieval 3, if they do make Medieval 3, hilariously enough, using the Warhammer kind of legendary lord system would actually be a boon to that game. Now just hear me out on this one. Instead of playing the Kingdom of England, right, you play as Richard the Lionheart. You play as the Black Prince, right? You're playing a legendary lord, which if you look into the medieval period, it's like primed for legendary lords and like heroes like El Cid or Saladin. These great, figures, Joan of Arc, La Hare, all these great figures, right, being their own hero unit or, legendary lord. And if you look at, like, again, like the Catholic and Muslim system, it's also primed for having, like, legendary weapons like Charlemagne's The Joy, his sword, or the Muhammad's Green Banner of Victory, or, like some Catholic relic or Muslim relic or even pagan relic. Like, they did, like, back in the day, these people did believe that these relics hold not only holy power, but martial power. Like, if you had this relic, like, if you had a piece of the true cross, you could not be defeated in battle. Unfortunately, the Crusaders of the Second Crusade found out the hard way that that wasn't the case. It didn't go so well for them. Spoiler alert. But like it is actually primed for the Total War system. Now, I'm not saying the Total War Warhammer system is perfect. I don't like ass ladders when it comes to sieges. I don't like the fact that any unit can pull a ladder out of its ass and climb over a wall. I actually much prefer Shogun 2's system, where you build siege engines, you had dedicated climber units, or you can have a unit try to climb the wall, but you're going to have units falling off the wall and dying. So that full stack of unit might just be a half stack or even a quarter stack by the time it reaches the wall. And speaking of sieges, I do prefer the sieges of the older games than to Warhammer's sieges. I just don't like Warhammer sieges. I kind of actually like the settlement battles for Troy a lot better than Warhammer's settlement battles. There's something about Troy that makes it actually work kind of well for me. In closing, I think Pixelated Apollo's video can be very much dismissed because it was a sad attempt at promotion at the expense of shitting on fans. However, I think the discussion of where CA should go in the future, because there is a large fan base again who grew up with the, let's call them newer titles like Warhammer, like the Warhammer titles, or like the Troy titles, or the Three Kingdoms titles, where you actually have a legendary lord that you command instead of just being a lord in a unit that you just command, as opposed to the historical titles. I think there is room for both, and I think this kind of this argument of historical versus fantasy fans is overblown, or the new versus old fans are completely overblown, because again, I like the historical titles. I also like Warhammer, the Warhammer titles. I also like the Three Kingdoms titles. Like, you can be a fan of all these games. Like, there's nothing stopping you. You don't have to pick a side and fight to the bloody death over it. However, for like Legend, I do want CA to improve, and I do want CA to listen to the fan base, stop making stupid decisions, and make games that we can all be proud of and share and enjoy. Because at the end of the day, that's the main thing, is as a community, do we really enjoy these games, and are we having fun with these games? Because video games are about pleasure and leisure at the end of the day. It's not about a dick-waving contest. It's not, oh, I'm a highbrow elite, I take history very, very seriously. No one really gives a shit about that. So yeah, like I do think that there is room for both, for the more legendary lore style type of game, and then I guess the more historical, grounded based type of game. It all depends on the setting you want to go for. Troy actually had a very interesting system where it was you can play as a legendary lord, or your legendary lord could be more like the historical title, where it's just a unit in it's one the lord is embedded in a unit, and you're controlling that unit instead of that lord, and the lord doesn't have hero powers or anything else like that. I think that like some titles like Medieval 3 can really lend itself to having this split system where you have legendary lords and then you have lords embedded in units. I believe that when it comes to like a World War One title style game, or even like an Empire 2 if they make it, that the legendary lore system wouldn't work, and CA really needs to pick and choose which system to really hone in on to which setting. And I think if they do that, the fans are going to be greatly pleased rather. And I think that the games will be a lot more coherent and, let's say, less decisive, divisive rather, divisive, not decisive, divisive. So this is a bit of a rambling video. Legend, if you're listening to this, thank you all. Thank you very much for all the hard work you have done. You are a great streamer. I still remember the time I actually popped into one of your streams, and I asked you a question about if you got all the achievements of Warhammer 3, and you alt tapped and you literally showed me. I didn't even give you a super chat. Like, I was just a random like questioner, and you just was like, yeah, you just answered the question just right off the bat. Like, I really do appreciate your style of streaming, and I do want to emulate just how entertaining and just nice as a streamer you are. So you know what? Thank you all. Thank you very much for all the videos you have done and all the streams you have done. I do really appreciate it. And thank you all to everyone who's watching this video. I do appreciate you taking the time and watching this kind of rambling video. Yeah, well, I already said my thanks to you, so I will see you next time. Queen of the East, once more, is going to start on Friday. I don't know if I'm going to stream this Saturday because there is a Age of Sigmar tournament that I go to, or it's like a pre-tournament that I want to get into, and it's on Saturday, so I'm not sure how long that's going to run, but I'll keep you guys informed. But again, thank you all very much, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.